What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Tricky Jim at Full Grip Games. This past weekend, over 1,300 players competed in the Limitless Online Qualifier number 4, an absolutely massive online Pokemon trading card game event. Very exciting stuff. There's some really cool decks that popped up at this event as well that I'm looking forward to talking about, not only in this video, but also on stream. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TrickyJim, where I stream live Pokemon trading card game content every single weekday. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the top 8 deck lists from this Limitless Online Qualifier number 4 and talking about the various strategies that players utilized to make their way all the way to the top of this huge online field. Finishing in 8th place is Justin Bakari with his Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX deck, and Justin is no stranger to success with Pikarom, having finished in the top 4 of the Knoxville Regional Championships with this archetype. This particular list is a natural evolution, I feel like, of Kimpo Bega's first place list from the Limitless Online Qualifier number 3. We have a lot of similarities here. The Pokemon count is almost identical. We do have the tag call engine present as well, with the Guzma and Hala and the Mallow and Lana, the Marnies and the researches with no Volkners, the 3 Dedenne GX. These are all things that I really liked about Kim's list, and I feel like have continued to see success this weekend. Now, there are some key differences between Kim's list and Justin's top 8 list here. Most notably, the second copy of Reset Stamp, very powerful, not only in the Pikarom mirror, which I'm sure Justin saw a lot of this past weekend, but also really good against Blacephalon decks, which did not make it to the top 8 of this event, unlike the Limitless Online Qualifier number 3. And since this list is not playing any Volkners or ways to search out item cards, having a second copy of Reset Stamp means that you're just going to be seeing it more naturally exactly when you need it, which I'm sure was very successful for Justin. We also have a copy of Mew from Unbroken Bonds with a bench barrier ability, preventing all damage done to your bench Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon's attacks, which is very good against Pikarom, since in the Pikarom mirror, Tag Bolt GX is one of the best attacks in your Pikarom deck's arsenal. Being able to take 5 or even 6 prizes with one attack is absolutely insane. 200 damage to the active and 170 snipe to the bench if you have 3 extra lightning energy attached to your Pikarom. And since Pikarom only has 240 HP, that means with just 2 Electro Powers, you can Tag Bolt GX for 260 damage to the active and 170 to the bench. And of course, since this deck plays a very high count of Dedenne GX, it means that there's pretty much always one on the bench, even start one sometimes. So Tag Bolt GX for 5 prizes, definitely something that happens in the Pikarom mirror. Even Tag Bolt GX for 6 prizes. Sometimes you just full blitz into a Pikarom, and then you could gust up one on the bench, double Electro Power, and then finish what you started with the first Pikarom and Tag Bolt for game, taking all 6 prizes with one Tag Bolt GX. If you haven't caught on, yes, Tag Bolt GX is very, very, very good. So Mew from Unbroken Bonds, excellent for preventing the Tag Bolt GX in the mirror, but also situationally good for preventing Cramorant V from attacking your Dedenne GX on the bench. So I like it for that as well. I do really love this tool split here with the 1 air balloon and the big charm. Makes Guzma and Hala such a live card at the beginning of the game. Being able to search out the air balloon to pivot a Pokemon out of the active position. The air balloon basically makes it so that if you didn't start one of your Pikaroms, you can Guzma and Hala for an effective switch card, which really helps with getting the turn 1 full blitz. So I really like the inclusion of the air balloon in this deck still. We did cut down to just 2 copies of Boss's Orders, but with a Great Catcher in the deck and an Eldegoss V to bring it back, I feel like that is an okay count. Now, something really interesting about Justin's list, he only plays 2 copies of Speed Lightning Energy and 11 Basic Lightning Energy, which means that he's going to have those Basic Lightning Energy in his deck more often than not for Full Blitz to make sure that he can always accelerate the maximum amount of energy with Full Blitz. The more you cut into that Basic Lightning Energy count, the higher chance you are not going to be able to Full Blitz for any energy accelerated towards the end of the game. And having those basic energy in the deck for Full Blitz to accelerate makes it so that Boltund will more consistently be using Bolt Storm for huge numbers, capable of one-hit KOing Dragapult VMAX, which is definitely something that happens, especially with Electro Power in the mix. So I do like that. Also, with 11 basic lightning energy in the deck, it means that basic lightning energy will have an easier way finding their way into the discard pile early on, making it easier for early Dance of the Ancients to accelerate that basic lightning energy into play. The Mallow and Lana, obviously very good here as well. A lot of the same things that we saw from the last Limitless online qualifier, really like the Marshadow, removing Shrine of Punishments, Power Plants, things like that. A very solid list, and no Jirachi in this list still, but we do have another Pikarom list in top 8 that is running Jirachi. So whether or not to play Jirachi, still up in the air. We've seen successful lists with and without Jirachi. Definitely congrats to Justin on an excellent finish with a very strong deck, finishing in 8th place. Finishing in 7th place, my good friend Andrew Wamble. Very excited for him, so major props to Andrew for an excellent finish with a very cool deck. This deck relies on using Spiritomb to take big one-hit KOs, and it does not play Arceus, Dalga, and Palkia. Previously, we have seen Spiritomb combined with ADP to boost Spiritomb's Anguish Cry attack to sky-high levels, capable of hitting 260 damage and more, but in this deck, Anguish Cry is limited to just 230 damage, which is still big. I mean, when you take the meta into consideration, hitting 230 damage with your Anguish Cry is just enough to knock out Zacian Vs that are not wearing metal frying pans or metal goggles, and it is almost enough to knock out Pikaroms that are not wearing big charms. So this is where the Tool Scrapper really comes into play, and I've seen a lot of Tool Scrappers in these top 8 lists because the tools really make a difference with a lot of the math for these Pokemon and hitting one-hit knockouts. Hitting 230 damage gets you just under that one-hit KO potential with Pikarom, so Shrine of Punishment helps to clean up the math on Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. If you just get that Shrine to stick for a couple of turns, you bring it into the one-hit KO realm for Spiritomb. Also, importantly, Buzzwole's Sledgehammer on the Sledgehammer turn. If your opponent has exactly 4 prize cards remaining, it does 90 more damage, so you can deal 120 damage with Sledgehammer for just 1 energy, which deals 240 damage to Pikarom exactly. So you're going to want that Tool Scrapper to remove the Big Charm, because Big Charm can really get in your way with this deck. We also have Pheromosa and Buzzwole GX, and I love this card in this deck. Jet Punch is great for softening up targets on your opponent's side of the field for Spiritomb's Anguish Cry, but a lot of times, since this is primarily a non-GX, non-VMAX, non-V deck, you're just going to want to slap that Buzzmosa down and use Beast Game GX for 80 damage to one-hit KO a Jirachi. And yes, I said 80 damage because you're going to be slapping that Beast energy onto the Buzzmosa more often than not, and using Beast Game GX on the likes of Jirachi, dealing 80 damage and taking a bonus prize, which can really help with your prize trade, especially against non-GX decks like Blacephalon. Speaking of Blacephalon, we do have a nice little tech in here for Blacephalon. The Taboo Fini definitely helps you with your trade against Blacephalon decks. I mean, you have the Spiritombs, which are awesome. They can Anguish Cry for 130 damage if you have 4 damage counters on them, which is pretty easy to get when you have the Jinx with the Ominous Posture ability, being able to move damage counters between Pokemon, and also your Rainbow Energy, which can place damage counters, and of course your Building Spite ability, which can place damage counters on itself. So not too hard to get 4 damage counters on your Spiritombs. That being said, it is very nice to have the Taboo Fini able to just swing in there and give you that extra turn to be able to use Building Spite to put damage counters onto your Spiritombs to make sure that they're all built up and ready to trade with Blacephalon. So I really like that there. And with the Ordinary Rod, you could theoretically use all of your tech Pokemon twice. You could use Taboo Fini twice. You could use Buzzwole twice if you decided you wanted to. You probably won't, but you could discard it and bring it back at the right time, so on and so forth. You could use your Bench Barrier Mew twice. If it happens to get gusted up and full blitzed, you could put that thing back into the deck and get it back out relatively easy with a copy of Ordinary Rod. And then the Nihilego, the third Ultra Beast in the deck with its Nightcap attack. You can use this attack only if your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining, and you get to choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. It can copy Brave Blade. That's the cool thing about Nihilego. It copies Brave Blade. It can copy anything, but Brave Blade does 230 damage, and being able to do 230 damage for just 1 energy is very good. So if you can make it so that your opponent's Zacian deck only has 2 prize cards remaining, you can finish off that matchup very easily with a well-timed Nightcap dealing 230 damage, which conveniently is just enough to knock out a Zacian V. So a little taste of its own medicine there. So I really like the inclusion of Nihilego in here, and it turns out just 1 Buzzwole, 1 Pheromosa Buzzwole GX, and 1 Nihilego, really the only partners that Spiritomb needed to be a top tier deck, finishing in the top 8 of this massive online event. So very impressive here. I really like the inclusion. 2 Great Catcher as well, meaning that you're always going to be able to bring up your opponent's Dedenne GX and trade favorably with those. I really like that. 4 Acro Bike means that you're just churning through the deck, rarely missing a beat, especially with 4 copies of Marnie, means that your deck is going to be very disruptive as well. You're always going to be limiting your opponent to a hand size of 4, and then Acro Bike to help churn out of that smaller hand size that is self-induced. And then we do have the 3 copies of Hustle Belt, which makes it so that your Spiritomb can use Anguish Cry, like I said, for 230 damage. The Hustle Belt makes it so that your Spiritombs do 60 more damage if they have less than 30 HP remaining and have any damage counters on them. So I really love this list. I think that the list is very concise, consistent. It's fast, aggressive, plays 4 copies of Jirachi and a Fion. I mean, you're just attacking your opponent's bench so often with this deck. 2 copies of Great Catcher and 2 Boss's Orders. And since all of your Pokemon are just 1 energy attackers, it means that their attack cost is just going to be very easy to negotiate throughout the course of the game. I love a low maintenance deck like this, and I'm really excited to see a really viable non-GX deck pop up here in the top 8 of this event that is not Baby Blacephalon. So major props to Andrew for an awesome finish and really cool deck here. I can't wait to try it out on stream. Finishing in 6th place is Ilya Kornilov with their Ultimate Mew Box deck. And this deck is one of the most unique decks in the top 8 of the event. A really cool new take on Henry Brand's Ultimate Mew Box with a whole lot of Pokemon to copy with Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. And I really like the updates that we have to this archetype from Rebel Clash, the inclusion of Boss's Orders as well as Eldegoss V, which can be very strong, and the Cryogonal here, one of the coolest cards in the deck with that Frozen Lock attack. But let's talk about the concept of the deck. This is really the only Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia deck that finished in the top 8 of the Limitless Online Qualifier number 4. It does play 1 copy of ADP to use that Altered Creation GX to boost your attack damage output and also give you the option to take bonus prizes. But more often than not, you're going to be utilizing Solgaleo GX's Soul Burst GX attack, which allows you to search your deck for up to 5 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Then you shuffle your deck. So you use Mewtwo and Mew's Perfection ability to copy the Soul Burst GX and to get yourself 5 energy in play on the first turn of the game or the second turn if you happen to go first, which means that you have 6 energy in play on turn 1, turn 2, which is awesome. So you have all of these energy in play, and all the energy that you're going to have in play are basically going to be rainbow or rainbow-like energy. You got 4 copies of rainbow energy in the deck, 4 Aurora energy in the deck, and 2 unit energies in the deck. So all special energy all the time, and basically you unlock this gigantic Pandora's box of attackers that you can attack with using your Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. So let's talk about some of those various attackers that we have. After you Soul Burst GX, you got 6 energy in play, and you can rock with a lot of these guys. You got Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff GX with that Jumping Balloon attack, which is great against Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX decks. Also good in the Mewtwo Mirror, since there's usually a lot of GX Pokemon in play. But Pikarom is probably the main reason that Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff is included. Jumping Balloon does 60 damage plus 60 more for each of your opponent's Pokemon GX in play, meaning that if Pikarom has 3 Pokemon GX in play, which they always have 3 GXs in play, almost always, that means you're doing 240 damage and can easily one-hit KO a Pikarom for just 3 energy. Now, Mega Sableye and Tyranitar, a crazy inclusion in the deck. However, if you get 5 energy onto your active Mewtwo, you can Greedy Crush, dealing 210 damage, and you take bonus prize cards if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon GX or EX. You can definitely punish your opponent for not knocking out your Mewtwo or getting a slow start. You can ramp straight in to a Greedy Crush and start taking bonus prizes, which is really powerful without having to use Altered Creation GX. Now, Altered Creation GX is another option if you decide that taking bonus prizes is going to be the way that you need to go this particular matchup. You can go first turn, attach your energy if you're going first especially. Then turn 2 Altered Creation is absolutely a viable strategy, especially since we do have the Alolan Raticate GX in this deck, which you can use Chuck Away for free. Just no energy required, deals 80 damage. You discard up to 2 cards from your hand, does 40 damage for each card you discard. So if you discard 2 cards from your hand, you're dealing 80. After an Altered Creation GX, it means that you're dealing 110 damage, which is enough to knock out things like Jirachi or Cinchinos and things like that, meaning that you could go turn 1, turn 2, Altered Creation GX, and then just start using Chuck Away to take bonus prizes, and you don't even need more energy on board than those first 2 energy that you needed in order to Altered Creation GX. So that strategy is very good against non-GX decks, very good against mill decks, things like that are going to be trying to deny your energy. Speaking of mill decks, yes, the Cryogonal also very good. After an Altered Creation GX, not only do we have the option to Chuck Away for 110, we could also use Frozen Lock for 40 damage, which is very good against Blacephalon decks, since you're going to be locking them out of item cards. They cannot use their energy retrievals, so on and so forth, things like that. And you can deal 80 damage to a Blacephalon. So you're 2-hit KOing Blacephalon with your Cryogonal, which is pretty cool, but also good for preventing Dolls from coming into play. The Surprise Cryogonal is really a curveball for a lot of decks to deal with, especially if they're not expecting it. Now, in the Limitless online qualifier, you do have full knowledge of your opponent's deck, so your opponent will know that you've got the Cryogonal in your deck, but on the ladder, they most certainly will not. And I think the Cryogonal is a very strong card, which can prevent a lot of item-based plays, so I really do like that. The Marshadow and Machamp Tag Team GX, just a 270 hit point fighting type Pokemon, pretty sick. You can actually use your Soul Burst GX to just throw a bunch of energy on Machamp and Marshadow and Machamp Tag Team GX and just start using 100 Blows Impact, one-hit KOing everything in a Pikarom deck. So that's pretty good, and very stressful for a Pikarom deck to deal with if they have to deal with not only a Mewtwo, but also Marshadow and Machamp Tag Team GX, just one-hit KOing everything in the deck. So that's very good, and definitely helps with the Pikarom matchup. Between that and Mega Lopunny, I mean, that is just a lot of aggression there against the Pikarom deck. Quick Jumping Balloon for 240, quick 100 Blows Impact as well as Revenge. You really only need 2 energy attached to it. So at some point in the game, after you use your Soul Burst GX, you could just drop the Marshadow and Machamp Tag Team GX and put 1 energy on it, and then it's ready to Revenge for 120 damage the following turn, which one-hit KOs Pikarom. So you can get that Revenge powered up pretty quickly, even without using the Soul Burst GX, which is really nice. Then we got the Reshiram Charizard GX here, just because being a fire type is very good. Metal type Pokemon are awesome. It's great. Outrage is really good. Yup, if your Mewtwo and Mew just happens to have a ton of damage on it, Outrage is insane, so that's a great 2 energy attack. Flare Strike is also just phenomenal. 230 damage is the magic number. One-hit KOs Zacian V, so you gotta like that ability to just do 230 damage for just 4 energy. And then I love the Vileplume GX in here as well, because it just ramps, right? I love that there's like a good attack to use with 1 energy, is Soul Burst GX. There's a bunch of good attacks to use with 2 energy. You've got Altered Creation GX here, and you've got Massive Bloom, just 180 damage for 2 energy is busted. And of course, you could Allergic Explosion GX, though I think that most of the time you're not going to be doing that because your other GXs are just better. But Massive Bloom for 2 energy is awesome. We also have Rocket Splash for 2 energy, which can one-hit KO anything if you've got enough energy in play. You get to shuffle any amount of water energy from your Pokemon into your deck. So if you've got 4 water energy in play, or, you know, rainbow energy that also count as water energy, which is all of these, right? Then you can deal 240 damage. I said after you Soul Burst GX, you have got 6 energy in play. So 6 times 6, you could theoretically do 360 damage. I mean, the following turn after a Soul Burst GX, you'll have 6. You could have 7, right? So you could do even more damage. I mean, so that Rocket Splash attack, certainly very powerful. Also very good after an Altered Creation GX, though getting that many energy in play after an Altered Creation is not the easiest thing to do, but it does happen. It is a very powerful attack. So I think that Rocket Splash also a great kind of finale move to have if you have been able to hang on to a good amount of energy throughout the course of the game. And then Chaotic Swell, 3 copies of it just to keep those Shrine of Punishments at bay, to keep those power plants out of here. If you happen to come across a Shadow Box Mimikyu, which I saw less of this week, then we do have a copy of Stealthy Hood in the deck. Guzma and Hala to search out your special energies as well as tag calls. So that's great. So you can easily get that turn 1 Soul Burst GX. And if you happen to be playing against Dragapult, we do have the Jirachi GX in here with the Psychic Zone ability to prevent your Psychic Pokemon's weakness, which is very good as well. I think this list is very concise. It's strong. We got the Xerneas in here too. Path of Life, can one-hit KO ADPs, but there were no ADPs in the top 8 of the event except for this one, which is not really going to be attacking all that often since you're just going to be using Mewtwo and Mew. Still nice to be able to throw all your energy onto a non-GX Pokemon if you decide that that is the way to go. I really like this list. Straightforward, consistent, 4 Dedenne. 4 Dedenne. Absolutely wild. It means that you're going to be day-to-day changing, just hamming through your deck at Mach 5 just about every single game. So I really love that. It's consistent, it's fast, gets a lot of energy into play quickly, and is really powerful Mewtwo and Mew deck here. Finishing in 5th place is Eric Blod with his Zacian V Jirachi Prism Star deck. We did see 3 of these decks make their way into the top 8 of the event. And this is a very powerful and straightforward list. Just 4 research, 2 Marnie, 4 copies of Zacian, the Mawile GX in here as well with a captivating Wink ability, allowing you to make your opponent reveal their hand. If they have any basic Pokemon, you can put that, any number of them, onto your opponent's bench, which is absolutely wild and can just give you great targets for Great Catcher as well as Boss's Orders to take bonus prizes on utilizing your Jirachi Prism Star. Now, I originally thought that this idea, this concept, just seemed kind of gimmicky, a little bit of a wombo combo, right? The idea of the deck is that you use Mr. Mime's Pantomime ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench for your turn, you may switch one of your face-down prize cards with the top card of your deck. So the goal is to switch the top card of your deck, which you're going to make it Jirachi Prism Star. You put it into your prizes, and then you use the Wish Upon a Star ability. If you took this Pokemon as a face-down prize card during your turn, and your bench is full, before you put it into your hand, you put it on your bench and take an extra prize card. Now, you use the Oranguru with the Primate Wisdom ability to put the Jirachi on top of your deck so that when you play the Mr. Mime to your bench, then you see how it all works, right? You use the Mr. Mime, the Oranguru, and the Jirachi Prism Star to take bonus prizes. Now, that originally seemed a little wombo combo-y to me. If I'm using cards like Quick Ball and searching out Pokemon, I usually want to be putting energy on them and attacking. I mean, this is just kind of like the basics of what I've learned in my 10 years of playing the Pokemon trading card game. Decks like this have not really seen any success so far in the history of the Pokemon trading card game. So I'm absolutely blown away that the Jirachi Prism Star combo, it's real. I mean, it's real and it worked. And there are 3 of them here in the top 8 of this 1,300 player event. So I've got no problem admitting that I was blown away by this, and this strategy is apparently more consistent and works more often than I thought it would. Now, I think it's really cool with the Turbo Zacian build here because of the way the meta has shaped up as well, with Pikachu asserting itself as one of the strongest decks. You can utilize Zacian V and Gusting to make sure that you just take 2 knockouts per game. It's all you really have to do. With Metal Saucer in the deck and Intrepid Sword, you can easily power up at least 2 Zacians. And Zacian, ironically, it's just one of the harder cards to be able to gust. Baby Blacephalon decks cannot easily gust up Zacian V, meaning that Zacian usually gets to kind of hang back on the bench, get itself built up, and then you can kind of just Stellar Wish and bide time, maybe use Dusk Shot here with your Duskmane Necrozma, softening up Pokemon GX and EX while you build up your Zacian Vs on the bench. And then you really only have to strike when the time is right, since the Zacian only needs to really take 2, 3 max knockouts in order to win the game when you're using the Wish Upon a Star ability, which you can use multiple times in a game with Scoop Up Net. So you're going to be utilizing the Scoop Up Net to pick up the Mr. Mime, pick up the Jirachi Prism Star, and you could rinse, wash, repeat, do it again. If you pick that Jirachi Prism Star off your bench, put it back into the prizes, and draw it again off your prizes, then you're taking another bonus prize, which is certainly pretty ridiculous. It's like ADP's Ultra Creation GX, but without having to actually use Altered Creation GX. Now, Friend Ball in the deck is really cool since there were a lot of Zacian combo decks seeing success, and also the Friend Ball can pretty consistently get you Dedenne GX, especially against Pikarom or any deck that runs Dedenne for that matter, which is going to be quite a few of them. So I like the addition of Friend Ball in the deck. Taboo Fini for the Blacephalon matchup. Like I said, Blacephalon could be a little bit scary, but the fact that Blacephalon does not have a great way to gust your Zacian, usually Blacephalon has to set up using a Zacian of their own. Eventually they'll put down an Oricorio GX or something like that. And that means that Zacian only needs to take a couple of knockouts against a Blacephalon deck in order to win. If they have 2 Pokemon on their bench or their side of the field that are worth 2 prizes, then Zacian only needs to Brave Blade twice if you're able to pull off the Jirachi Prism Star combo twice, or 3 knockouts if maybe you just pull it off once, right? Take 3 prizes on a maybe you take 3 prizes on a Dedenne or something like that using the combo, and then you tap a Fini for 1 prize, and then all you have to do is maybe gust up your Oricorio and just win the game that way. So Zacian only really needs to attack a couple of times with the Brave Blade attack, which I think is really good. And since Zacian is relatively hard to gust, I mean, you could use Boss's Orders to gust it up and knock it out, of course, but Pikarom doesn't always have the easiest time KOing a Zacian V with full blitz early on. It's not till later in the game. And against Pikarom specifically, you could soften up Pikaroms early with the Dust Shot while they're just full blitzing. So they have to kind of take out these non-GX Pokemon from the get-go, and then eventually you end up Brave Blading. You can use your Tool Scrapper there to remove the big charm from Pikarom. Brave Blade for knockout, take 4 prizes on a Pikarom. Then you don't even have to do the Wishing Star combo again, and you could Great Catcher up a Dedenne and just end the game that way. So I like the potency of the Jirachi combo in these Zacian decks, since you don't need to mess around with using Arceus Dialga and Palkia GX. All you need to do is really pull the combo off once per game. If you can pull it off once per game, you're probably going to be winning that game. It's just enough to get the Zacians ahead in the prize race and make your 4 copies of Metal Saucer really go the distance. Because that's the thing, if you're just trying to trade with Zacians back and forth, you can actually run out of juice to be able to busted. If you're not taking bonus prizes with Zacian V, you can actually run out of juice with only 4 copies of Metal Saucer in the deck. So the ability to take bonus prizes, I think, is very good, since we're not really playing too heavily into a disruptive game here. This is just a turboed out speed deck that's meant to take prizes quickly and efficiently. It really takes advantage of the fact that Zacian is just one of the best attackers in the game, easy to accelerate energy onto, has Intrepid Sword, puts energy onto itself and draws cards, making it even easier to pull off the Wish Upon a Star combo than it would be with any other deck. So very big props to Eric for an excellent finish, our 5th place Zacian deck. In 4th place, we've got Michael Cutrone with his very unique take on Dragapult VMAX. You can see right from the get-go, we've got a Zamazenta V in here, and no, there is no metal energies in the deck. This is just a card to use for the Dauntless Shield ability, which we'll get to momentarily. But this is a wild take on Dragapult VMAX. Only 7 energy in the deck, 3 Horror Psychic Energy and 4 Basic Psychic Energy. Of course, we do have the 2 Energy Spinner in the list to help get those energies out of the deck, but a very low base energy count. 4 Crushing Hammers, though. We have to make room for the Crushing Hammers. Great against a number of decks. Can keep Pikarom from attacking early. Can keep Pikarom from hitting the numbers they need with Bolton V at the end of the game. Just great against a whole host of decks. Knocking energies off of Zacians is phenomenal, since they only have 4 Metal Saucers in the deck. Knocking energies off of Dragapults in the Dragapult Mirror is absolutely phenomenal. So I think that Crushing Hammer fits its way into a number of matchups. It's good versus almost everything. A very disruptive deck. We do have 2 copies of Power Plant, great for Reset Stamp Power Plant. I mean, that's just an amazing combo at the end of a game. You Reset Stamp your opponent to low, you put a big 320 Dragapult VMAX up in the active, maybe Crushing Hammer and energy off, maybe remove an energy with Dimension Breach, especially good against Pikarom, like I said, that plays a lot of those speed lightning energies, good against Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, the deck that we saw there previously with all those special energies in the deck, and you could reuse that Dimension Breach with Scoop Up Net. So yeah, a very disruptive. You reset Stamp to low, Power Plant, remove the energies, and you sweep with Dragapult VMAX. And the main premise behind Dragapult VMAX is that the longer that you can make the game, the higher your chances of winning, because Max Phantom at face value does not do a lot of damage. You're only dealing 130 damage to the active, but you get to snipe 5 damage counters wherever you want on your opponent's bench. So that 180 damage base, I mean, you're dealing 130 to the active, 5 on the bench. That adds up turn after turn. So what you need to do in order to craft your win condition is just survive without losing as long as possible and continue pumping out attacks. So the heavy disruption in Michael Cutrone's list here with the 2 Power Plant, the 2 Reset Stamps, the Dimension Breach Giratina, and the 4 Crushing Hammers is all geared towards giving you those extra turns, which is why the Zamazenta V is in here as well. If you're playing against a Dragapult VMAX mirror match, you can even create win conditions just utilizing this Zamazenta V. If your opponent's evolved up all their Dragapult VMAX and you can count their discard pile and you know that they do not have another way to attack, you could just throw up that Zamazenta V and buy yourself a bunch of turns with the Dauntless Shield ability if you need to. So that's like a really unique inclusion in here. You can use the Zamazenta V to buy turns in the mirror match to kind of wall and give yourself some time. It also can create win conditions by itself if your opponent happens to be near decking out, and you can concoct a board state where you just have the Zamazenta V and your opponent just has VMAXs. You could just win the game with that. So I think that that's a really unique inclusion in the deck. I do like the 4 Scoop Up Net, 4 Switch. I'm a really big fan of just 4 net, 4 switch. With the board, we have so much pivot for our Jirachis. That's just amazing. So I really love the 4 copies of Scoop Up Net with the 4 switch and the escape board, giving you 9 potential switch outs for your Stellar Wish. You're going to be Stellar Wishing to your heart's content. Absolutely amazing. Going in and out with that. Interesting, we've got the Eldegoss V in the deck and not the Mewtwo. With the Scoop Up Nets, Eldegoss V, Michael opting for the Happy Match ability, just immediately bringing that supporter card back to the hand, and only 1 copy of Boss's Orders. 1 copy of Boss's Orders, 1 copy of Great Catcher. We don't always see Great Catcher in the Dragapult VMAX list, but the Great Catcher can be very good since you can use Marnie and bring up something on your opponent's bench. Not Marnie. I take it back. There's no Marnies in this list. Cynthia. You could use Cynthia or Research and bring something up in the same turn, which is very powerful. But the Cynthia Research with the reset stamps is something I've been seeing more and more of with the Dragapult lists. Marnie just kind of slipped out because you're so used to seeing Dragapult paired with Marnie. But I think the concept behind a list like this is that we're going to be drawing more cards, setting up more explosively, setting up more consistently. And then when it comes to disruption, you don't need to use Marnie because a lot of times Marnie can be just as disruptive to you as it is to your opponent, only giving you 5 cards off the top of your deck. Cynthia and Research, much more powerful draw supporters. So then the concept is that when you want to disrupt, you actually just rely on Reset Stamp to limit your opponent's hand at the right time instead of trying to Marnie and limit your opponent's hand every single turn, since Marnie can actually sometimes give your opponent better cards in their hand than they had previously. So the Reset Stamp, you just wait for the well-timed Reset Stamp at the end of the game, and you try to sweep with your Dragapult VMAXs. A very, very concise list, very disruptive list here from Michael Cutrone, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this list in action. I think the Distortion Door Giratina, really cool inclusion in here, as well as the Headbutt Tantrum Galarian Zigzagoon, gives you more options to be able to very quickly knock out your opponent's Jirachis on the bench, which I think is very good as well. I found that 2 sniping options as opposed to just 1 is really good for quickly and efficiently taking out benched Pokemon. Now, something else that's really unique here about this list is no Shadow Box Mimikyu. We don't have any of the Scoop Up Block Mr. Mime. This list here is just geared to be consistent and disruptive, and I like that. Michael Cutrone's 4th place list. In 3rd place, we have Kosei Side 2's Pikarom list. And this is a really unique take on Pikarom. And I feel like I've said very unique deck multiple times throughout this video, but I'm serious. This is a really wild take on Pikachu. We've only got one copy of Dedenne GX in the deck, but surely with only one Dedenne GX in the deck, we would have more draw supporters, right? Wrong. We only have 2 copies of Marnie and 3 Volkner. That's it. So how this deck got up and running and to a 3rd place finish at 1,300 players in the Limitless Online Qualifier number 4, absolutely mind-blowing, but goes to show you don't really know as much as you think you do about deck construction. This is a very wild Pikachu list here, utilizing the Tag Call engine and Guzma and Hala to set up consistently only 1 Dedenne GX in the deck, not relying on Day-Day Change turn after turn. 3 has become the new normal for Dedenne GX. Instead, we do have the Jirachis in the list, which is very cool, and you can use your Guzma and Halas to get you Escape Boards, to get you Big Charm, to get you your Vitality Band, and we do have 4 copies of Speed Lightning Energy in the deck, meaning that we are going to be able to utilize that Speed Lightning Energy to draw, and we have a Power Plant in the deck as well, which is really cool because since we're not super reliant on Dedenne GX, you can more effectively utilize Power Plant. We do have 3 Jirachi in here, so Stellar Wish is going to help you to find those cards that you need when you need them. In combination with Speed Lightning Energy, you do have a decent amount of dig in your deck, and we do have the Eldegoss V, which is very cool because it can be utilized under that Power Plant. Especially for this event, I don't think a lot of players would have expected the Reset Stamp Power Plant play to come from Pikachu, but that Reset Stamp Power Plant play is very strong, not only against Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX decks, but also against Blacephalon, also against Mewtwo. I mean, it's good against almost every single deck. A very heavy tag call count in this deck. 3 tag calls, the 2 Guzma and Hala, the 1 Mallow and Lana. We don't have any electromagnetic radars in the deck, so the deck is just utilizing Quick Ball and Tag Call to set up, but with 3 copies of Tag Call, I really do like that, especially with the emphasis on Guzma and Hala. We're basically going to be using Guzma and Hala to set up every single game here because of the heavy tag call count, and you can just use Guzma and Hala to go get your Thunder Mountain Prism Star, and with Jirachi in the deck, you can utilize Guzma and Hala to get yourself the Escape Board as well. There's also no Energy Switch in the deck, just 1 copy of Tag Switch, which is really interesting. Since our emphasis is primarily on the Guzma and Hala, I suspect that our main strategy was to go grab the Thunder Mountain Prism Star in order to be launching our full blitzes early on every game, instead of using the Dance of the Ancients Energy Switch combo or relying on that Tag Switch, more or less reserved here for a later game Volkner play, so that you can obviously swing all of the momentum onto either Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX or onto your Raichu and Alolan Raichu for a big Lightning Ride GX. And then Boltund V with its Electrify and Bolt Storm Electrify, obviously amazing at the beginning of the game, and then Bolt Storm still fantastic at the end. I really like the return to the Jirachi engine in Pikachu list, though I definitely have taken favor to Kimpo Bega's first place Limitless Online Qualifier number 3 Pikachu list. I also love Stellar Wishing in my Pikachu deck, so I'm going to have to try this list out and see how just 5 draw supporters feels while playing Pikachu. That definitely is a pretty radical deck build strategy, but you know, it's different, and I'm excited about that. So I'm going to be trying this out on stream for sure, and major props here to Kosei Saito for a really unique deck build, being able to finish in the top 3 of a massive online tournament with a very radical build of Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. So awesome stuff. Moving on to the finals, in second place we have Azul with his Zacian V Jirachi combo deck. Major props to Azul. Congratulations on an amazing finish. The Zacian V deck is concise, straightforward, plays the Mind Report Mewtwo, love that. With the scoop up nets, we're going to be putting the Jirachi into the prizes using Mr. Mime, and then using a Rangaroo, yes, as well as the Mr. Mime. Jirachi Prism Star into the prizes, then onto the bench. We've got the Tapu Fini here as well. essential part of the deck to help with that Blacephalon matchup, and Dusk Shot to help soften up the likes of Arceus Dagapalkia, Mewtwo Mewtag Team GX, Pikaroms, anything that you can't one-hit KO with a base 230 damage. You could just bide time and use that Duskmane Necrozma's Dusk Shot to be able to bring everything into that one-hit KO range, so that by the time you're finally ready to use Brave Blade, you're taking bonus prizes when you do. Something I really love about Azul's list specifically is the 2 Great Catcher and the 2 Boss's Orders, since this deck really only needs to attack a couple of times. 2 Great Catcher means that if your opponent's got 2 Dedenne GX on their bench, then you could just win the game if you put Jirachi into the prizes twice, gust up 2 Dedennes. Great Catcher makes it even easier to do that. The 1 Friend Ball, something we saw in the 5th place list. The 3 Acro Bikes, we saw that as well. This list is really starting to kind of come into shape here as we see a lot of these Jirachi Zacian combo decks really start to do well at the tournament level. We've got the 4 Research, the 2 Marnie, and the Tool Scrapper in the deck, which is very essential for removing those metal frying pans and metal goggles, as we will see in the 1st place list, and big charms as well. Those metal goggles ended up making a big difference in the mirror match in the finals. 1 copy of Tool Scrapper can get you there and remove them, but obviously if one of them gets to stick at an unopportune time, then that could be a game-changing situation, since any sort of metal frying pan or goggles on a Zacian can make it so that Zacian cannot return a knockout on itself. And since this deck only plays 1 copy of Dedenne GX, more often than not, you're just going to be using Intrepid Sword to draw your cards to get the deck set up, and you don't actually need to have any weak Pokemon on your bench, which is what this deck thrives on. Weak Pokemon on the bench, which is really fascinating. So I think that the Zacian combo deck, the one thing that is really fantastic about this deck, and the thing that I really admire about it, is that, I mean, look at how many switch, look how consistent this deck is. 4 scoop up nets, 4 switch, 2 escape boards, and the Jirachis, right? It's amazing how consistent this deck is, but I love that it sets up and it's consistent, and it doesn't need a lot of weak GX Pokemon on the bench. It does not need Dedenne GX on the bench. It doesn't need a Zeraora GX or something like that on the bench. It's just Zacians, and Zacians are not weak. They have 220 HP. They can't be gusted up with Great Catcher. They're very hard to KO, actually, for a 2 prize Pokemon, and they deal out a ton of damage in return. So it's no wonder that this deck list ended up getting cracked and ended up finishing 1st and 2nd place at the Limitless Online Qualifier number 4. Let's get on to our tournament winning deck lists. In 1st place, we have Takedo Seki with their Zacian V Jirachi Prism Star combo deck. An absolutely amazing list here, and pretty different than any of the other Zacian decks that we've seen so far. It's got 2 copies of Sonya in it. I love this. I mean, you never know what you're going to see, right? It's awesome to see the innovative deck building skills happening from these top players at this event. 2 copies of Sonya gets you up to 2 basic Pokemon or basic energy cards from your deck, and you put them into your hand. Could be great for setting up the Jirachi Prism Star combo. Sometimes you just need to go get the Jirachi Prism Star and the Mime out of your deck, so you could set that Wombo combo up and then take some bonus prizes using Brave Blade. Love it. You could also use it to go get basic energy. If you have trouble finding energy, you shouldn't. There's 12 in the deck, which is awesome. But if you happen to have trouble finding your energy, you could use it to go grab your energy as well. But more often than not, you're probably just going to be using the Sonya to help set up your Jirachi Prism Star combo, which I think is really cool, since we do have a good amount of basic search in the deck as well, with a copy of Friend Ball and Quick Ball. Friend Ball, great for the mirror match. You could go get any of your metal Pokemon in the mirror match, and you could always go get Dedenne GX against almost every single deck. We also have Psychic Pokemon. I mean, Friend Ball's just a really live card in this deck. You can get either the Mew from Unbroken Bonds, the Bench Barrier, preventing Tag Bolts. Something unique about this list as well is that we're not playing the Dusk Shot Duskmane Necrozma in this particular list. Instead, we have Mawile GX with the Captivating Wink, so you can force your opponent's hand. You can force basics down from their hand, which could be really good if they happen to have any sort of Dedenne GX 2 prize Pokemon waiting up in that hand. Also amazing against Blacephalon decks, since Blacephalon will tend to kind of grow their hand, right? They just grow their hand, they Intrepid Sword, they do welder things, they Heat Factory, right? They get this gigantic hand, and you could just go Captivating Wink against a Blacephalon deck, and I bet that there's like a Blacephalon GX or a Dedenne or an Oricorio GX just waiting in the hand, and then you could take 3 prizes on it with Zacian, which really helps in that matchup. Since we're not playing the Taboo Fini, since we don't have that non-GX attacking option against the Blacephalon deck, I think the Mawile GX kind of makes up for it by forcing those 2 prize Pokemon onto your opponent's bench, which I really like. Only 1 copy of Mr. Mime in this list means that sometimes you will prize the combo. You've got a 2-piece combo here with the Jirachi Prism Star and the Mr. Mime. It's actually a 3-piece, but you're only going to prize both Orangaroos like 1 in 100 games, so that, yeah, for the most part, will not matter. But we only have the 1 Mr. Mime and the 1 Jirachi, which means that sometimes you are going to prize either one of those, which could be a little bit of a pain. But since Zacian is just that boss dog, it does 230 damage, it takes big knockouts, odds are you're going to be able to pull one of those pieces out of the prizes with a big Brave Blade attack, you know, on a Dedenne GX or on a Zacian. Just take a couple prizes, and then odds are you'll probably find one of the pieces that you need in order to pull off the combo and finish the game. Shrine of Punishment is great for bringing Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX into knockout range, which is what you need to do with this deck. Since we got the Tool Scrapper to remove the big charm, we don't have the Dusk Shot to be able to soften up the Pikarams. You need that Shrine at the very least to be able to bring the Pikaram's math down into that 1-hit KO realm, which is very good. 3 copies of Boss's Orders and the Great Catcher. It's like the main thing about this deck. You need to gust like every turn. You need to gust, and you need to make sure that you're taking those pointed knockouts, right? Because you only get to Brave Blade a few times. There's only 4 Metal Saucers in the deck. You know, Intrepid Sword, you can power up Brave Blade a few times throughout the course of the game. You need to make sure you're gusting and knocking out the right thing when you are ready to use the Wish Upon a Star ability. So I love the high gust count in this deck and the 2 metal goggles, making it so that Dragapult VMAXs cannot place damage counters onto your metal Pokemon, and they take 30 less damage from attacks. The metal goggles, real clutch in this list, not only for Dragapult, but also for the Mirror, also for Pikaram decks. I mean, the metal goggles are just good, making your Zacians even beefier. Giving them essentially 250 HP is very strong. So the metal goggles, definitely great. The 12 basic energy, phenomenal as well. And the Sonia, definitely the most memorable part of this list, and I'm really looking forward to trying out this awesome new deck on stream. And that does it for our top 8 decks from the Limitless Online Qualifier number 4. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Hopefully you liked my deck breakdown here. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Make sure to check us out on stream, twitch.tv/TrickyGym, where I'm going to be showing off these decks this week. And yeah, showing them off in action. Should be a lot of fun. Make sure to give the Twitch channel a follow, twitch.tv/TrickyGym. If you're looking for trading card game singles, make sure to check out FullGripGames.com. Supporting the shop at Full Grip Games directly supports the content that I create here on Tricky Gym. We're also always buying cards, so if you've got cards you want to sell, full art, hollows, things like that, make sure to check out our buy list at FullGripGames.com. We're always buying singles and bulks. Also, if you're looking for PTCGO codes, make sure to check out FullGripCodes.com for instant PTCGO code delivery. Y'all take it easy and have a great day, and I'll catch you later on Twitch. Peace.